Hi everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to HED Talks. So if you were not here last week, you'll be glad to know that I'm going to be doing a review. All right, so we'll be doing CPAT just for you. You didn't miss a thing. You haven't missed a thing. All right, so we're in our third week of the new series, and the new series is what?
Holidays.
Holidays. And do you know what today's holiday is?
Hanukkah.
Oh my gosh, you're all right on top of this. Yeah, you're all right on top of it. So today we're going to talk about Hanukkah, and I'm thinking I'm probably going to surprise you with the story. Maybe not all of you, but some of you. But first we're going to do our review, and we'll review quickly from last week. What was last week about? I hope you all know, because it was pretty...
Halloween and Easter.
Yes, that's right. Easter. Yeah, we talked about Easter, and we had some real surprises last week. Do you agree? Yeah, we had some real surprises. So we're going to just go over that very, very quickly. Do you remember Easter does not appear anywhere in the Bible?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yeah.
There was one place where we had an error, and it was in the King James Version.
They changed.
Yeah,
They
that's
changed
correct. Yes, you're absolutely right. So the word that they used for Easter was really actually what? Passover. Yes, excellent. Yes, it was Passover, and it was corrected in the King James Version. Remember, it did not appear in any other language, only in the English, the Old English of the original King James Version. So now it's been corrected, and it is the time of Passover, and that's important to the story, isn't it? Yes, it's very important to the story. We also took a look at the disciples of Jesus, and did they observe anything other than the Jewish holidays that they were already used to, that they were already observing as Jews? No, they didn't. They continued to observe the holy days, just as they always had. So even after Jesus died, they continued to do that. All right, so we took a little bit of a look at Passover last week, and we know that it's called Passover because why?
They passed over.
The blood was on the
The blood was on the door, and they passed over.
Yes, so there were plagues. Where are they?
Egypt.
They're in Egypt. Egypt is suffering all of these plagues, and the last plague is the worst plague, which was the death of the firstborn. But if you did this, Moses let the people know that if you put the blood on the lintels of your doorway, then what would the death do? It would, yes, it would, yes, it would pass over. So that's what it's about. It's also called the Day of Unleavened Bread. And why is that? Because did you hear Bob? Because they had to book it out of there. Yeah, they couldn't wait. They couldn't take time for the bread to rise. All right, and so it's not just about that. They couldn't wait because the next morning they were going to be what?
Killed.
Nobody saved.
They're going to be leaving.
Oh, that's right.
They're going to be leaving. All right, so Passover is also about liberation, isn't it?
Yes.
So on this side of the sea, they are what?
Slaves.
And on the other side of the sea, they are what?
Free.
Free. So this is also about liberation. Now, after the crucifixion that occurred during the celebration of Passover, were there any new observances for the disciples of Jesus? Did Jesus give them anything new to observe? Like,
Yes.
Two. There were two. There were two. All right, so we didn't give anything like Easter or Christmas, but there were two things that he asked them to do in memory of him, to observe. And what were they?
Breaking of the bread and the wine.
Excellent, yes. And what's the second one?
Washing of the feet.
Excellent, Dennis. Yes, foot washing. So those were the two things, communion and foot washing. Those are the two things that he gave for his disciples, for his followers to do. And it's just those two things, right?
Yeah.
All right, so we understand what's happening. It's very clear what's happening in the Gospels and in Acts. So we had to ask the question last week, how do we go from here to here? It is quite a leap. Yes, it is a gigantic leap. So we wanted to take a look at that. So we said again, Easter does not appear in the Bible anywhere at all, and so we're hearing about it for the first time in the 700s AD, and we're hearing it from Saint Bede. All right, he's a historian. He's an English monk. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to coordinate all the different calendars that existed so that there would be one unified calendar and everybody would know what time it was, right? Because people were celebrating different things at different times, and so he wanted to pull it all together. And as he was studying this, he reveals to us something surprising. Do you remember what it was? The Passover month, the month of Passover, which is what we're looking at right now. When does Easter happen?
March and April.
Excellent. All right, so he's telling us that the Passover month is named after the goddess. Remember that? And so she is the goddess of spring, right? She is the goddess of fertility. What happens in the spring? Yeah, everything comes back to life, and so she is not only the goddess of spring, but she has a very, very interesting symbol that accompanies her. Do you remember?
The rabbit.
Yeah, she has a rabbit, but it's not just any rabbit. It's not just any old rabbit, because this rabbit, do you remember what this rabbit does that no other rabbit can do? Yeah, this rabbit lays eggs. Yes, so this rabbit lays eggs. So Istra is the fertility goddess. Her symbolism is a rabbit or a hare, and this rabbit is somehow able to lay eggs. And so hundreds of years ago, during the spring equinox, one of the celebration rituals was that the children would make these nests. And they would put their little empty nests out at night in hopes that the Easter bunny would put those eggs, those magical eggs, into their empty nest. And so we were thinking that even though we don't have documentation that says this is precisely how it all went down, it turns into a what, Dennis?
It looks like a basket.
It looks just like a basket, doesn't it? So you can kind of see how that would have evolved, right? And then we took a look at all the Germanic names for this goddess, Istra. All right, and in one of the Germanic tribes, it actually comes right out and says, yes. And then I just wanted to make sure that we didn't pass through this one without letting all you ladies know that the word estrogen comes from the ancient Anglo-Saxon goddess Istra. Interesting, right? And so we also wanted to point out that this is one of the variations from the Germanic tribes of Istra's name. and that she is the goddess of spring, renewal, and resurrection. Resurrection. And so this was something that helps us try to figure out how did Christianity incorporate these ancient rituals? Well, they were trying in the same way they did with All Saints' Day. Remember for Halloween? All Saints' Day, they were trying to relate. They're trying to reach out to the people because what are they there for? They're in that area because they are trying to do what with the native peoples? Exactly. So they're trying to convert them. They're trying to bring the good news to them. And they're thinking that if we can find common ground, we'll be more successful. Is that sound logic?
Yeah.
That's sound logic, yeah. So you can kind of see why they would be doing that. And then I also shared with you that Easter goes back even further, much further. And she goes back to to ancient Babylon, the Assyrian goddess Semiramis. Do you remember her from last week?
That's what you called her.
Semiramis is the Greek pronunciation. So her Assyrian name is a little bit different. And she is really interesting because she is mentioned in a stela of kings. So there's a woman mentioned in a stela of kings in ancient Babylon, ancient Assyria. And that is so extraordinary, that is so unusual that people took the information that they received about her, and even though the information they received about her is simply this is it. This is the whole thing. She's the wife of the king. She's the mother of the king in waiting. She's the daughter-in-law of another king. That's the inscription. That's what's been found on the stela. That's it. That's the whole thing. So if that's all we know, then how do we get all these fantastic stories? People just made it up. Because if she is mentioned, because are women carved into stone in ancient Babylon? No, not at all. Are there any other women? No. So she has to be some kind of sensation, right? And so their imaginations are running wild, and there's all kinds of fabulous stories about her, and there's a whole lot of them. I just mentioned a couple because there's so many. I mentioned a couple that incorporate things that we relate to our Easter traditions. So it is Semiramis, who is the mother of Tammuz. Remember Tammuz is her son? And when he's 40 years old, he is killed by a wild boar. Do you remember that? And because he's killed by a wild boar, we now have ham for Easter dinner. Remember that? Yeah, that's what, yes, we have ham for Easter dinner because we're getting back at that boar. All right? He killed Tammuz. Now we're going to get back at him for that. And this is just the incredible creativity of ancient peoples making up all of these stories. But Semiramis, the ancient Babylonian goddess, she couldn't possibly have anything to do with us today, right?
I hope not.
Did you say you hope not? Oh, are you in for a surprise? You're in for a big surprise. All right, so last week what I showed you was I had gone to this site, the Congressional Medal of Honor Society, and you can find out what all the different medals are and the symbolism and the design. If you go on the site and you look up medal design, then you will find under the Air Force Medal of Honor design that it looks like this. All right? Yes. And then it gives you a description over here, which I blew up for you, and then it got blurry, so much for that. But I'm going to read it to you again. So this looks like the Statue of Liberty, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. But what it says right here, which I've blown up for you, is the Statue of Liberty is centered in the Air Force design. In addition to standing for liberty, she is derived from the imagery of,
I knew she was gonna come.
yes, Queen Semiramis of Babylon, who was famed for her beauty, strength, and wisdom. So not only is Semiramis the ancient Babylonian goddess of spring, represented in the Medal of Honor for the Air Force, but she also represents what?
Statue of Liberty.
Yes. Yes. She represents the Statue of Liberty. Okay, so was that surprising for you? All right, and then we went on and we shared a couple of other things. All right? Kat, you're just having a great time over there.
I like the button's face.
Yes, yeah. All right, so we were talking about how, so now we know where the Easter bunny most likely comes from, correct? And we also know where the Easter eggs most likely come from, right? Yep, and they're colorful, magical eggs. All right, so we've got hard-boiled eggs, and they wanted to sweeten that up a little bit, and so we've got what in the shape of eggs? Yeah, so we're just gonna add something sweet to it. All right, what about the Easter parade? Do you remember where that comes from?
New York.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Bob and Dennis. Yes, New York, Fifth Avenue. All of the beautiful people of New York, they went to church in their glorious clothing, and they just didn't feel satisfied that only the people in church got to see them. More people should be able to see them. So what they did was they just paraded themselves down Fifth Avenue, and others started to come out and admire them. So from that tradition, then the more common folks started thinking, you know, if they can do it, why can't we? Right? Yeah. Yep, so we started dressing ourselves up and dressing our children up, and so that kind of answers all of those nagging questions. So what are we talking about today? Hanukkah. All right, so we're going to go into Hanukkah, and I think one of the most recognizable symbols of Hanukkah is what? Yes, exactly, the menorah, all right? Except we want to look at it just a little bit closer. Let's take a look at the menorah a little bit closer. It is a very important symbol, an instrument in the temple, all right? In the holy place inside the temple. Do you see it right here? All right, this is just like a little miniature mock-up of the temple with the holy, and the Holy of Holies is right here beyond the curtain. And what do you see here? A menorah is right there. And what does it symbolize? Well, it symbolizes creation. All right, how many can we count? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, what?
7.
All right, it symbolizes the light of God, God's wisdom, because isn't that what they were supposed to be doing? Sharing the wisdom to the world, all right? It also symbolizes the tree of life, all right? It has a lot of symbolism, it has a lot of meaning, and a lot of purpose. But if we look very closely at the menorah of Hanukkah, we'll see something different. What's different there?
Two extra. Two extra.
2 extra. It represents the miracle of Hanukkah. And so the story goes that on the day that the Maccabees rededicated the temple, that there was only enough oil to light 1 lamp, all right, for 1 day. But that small amount of oil lasted for how many days? 8 days. So that small amount of oil lasted for 8 days. And so you have the 8 candles, and the one in the center is called the servant candle. It's the one that you use to light the others. All right. There's other symbolisms that you're seeing in this photograph. What else are you seeing that represents Hanukkah? Dreidel, presents, yes. So on Hanukkah, you receive a gift every night for how many nights? 8 nights. And then you see the dreidel, and then you see the chocolate coins, right? The coins. All right, so all of this is recognizable symbols of Hanukkah. Oh, I have the jelly donuts. Look, I put them in here. I added the jelly donuts. Okay, and the jelly donuts, anything cooked in oil, it's to what?
They have the dreidel too.
The dreidels, yes. All right, yes, and all of that is that's representing the oil that was used during the rededication. So we're kind of familiar with the symbolism of Hanukkah, right? All right, but do you know that there is so much more to the story? There is a fascinating, unbelievable, miraculous story of how we lead up to the rededication of the temple, which is what Hanukkah is all about. All right? And this might be the piece of it that you don't know. And I am dying to share it with you because I think it is the most fantastic. It's just a great story. So let me share that with you. Have you heard of the Apocrypha?
Yeah.
The Apocrypha simply is those writings that were available during these times that did not make it into the canonized version of what we call the Bible. Okay, so there are many of them. Now, these are all of the writings, all of the books, we call them, that did not make it into the Bible that we know of. Did you realize there were this many books? Yes, there's quite a few. All right, and in some places they would accept a few these, but not these. But the Bible typically that everyone here would have would not include these. They're not canonized. Now, there is one of the apocryphal books that tells of this story of the rededication of Hanukkah. And that can be found in the Catholic Bible. Did you know that? So you can read, here it is, the book of Maccabees. Have you heard of Maccabees?
No.
Oh, I'm so glad for everyone that said no, because I'm so excited to share it with you. All right, so we have the story of Hanukkah in the book of Maccabees. And I'm going to tell you that story. Effie, you're going to love this story, because it begins with, that's Alexander the Great.
I couldn't remember him. It went right over my head.
Alexander the Great. So we know that Alexander the Great is a Macedonian conqueror, right? He spreads all across the world and he conquers all this land. But he died very unexpectedly, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he died. He was just in his 30s, and he died kind of mysteriously. And so because he was so young and it was so surprising and unexpected, he didn't have an heir to his empire, did he? It got divided up among his generals. All right, so now we have generals splitting up the empire of Alexander, and we're going to be looking right here. Seleucus is the name of the general that got this part of the empire, so it's named after him, the Seleucid kingdom. Okay, and what lands in the Seleucid kingdom? Yes, Israel, Judea, Jerusalem is now under the rule of the Seleucid kingdom. All right, and we know if Alexander is Greek, then his generals are Greek. And so what is happening in Judea is the Hellenization of the Jewish people. The Hellenization of the Jewish people. And what that means is that they are becoming enamored of the Greek culture. All right, so now the Greek culture is coming in. Greek people, Greek governors are coming into their land. Greek, all kinds of things. Let's look at the Greeks.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what are they bringing?
And if Alexander hadn't died, we would have all been Greeks.
If Alexander hadn't died, we would have all been Greek?
Yeah.
Ah.
Can you imagine that?
Very, very possibly, Effie. Very possibly. I would never argue with you. Yes. Look at what Greek culture is bringing into these areas. Do you see the knowledge? All right? Do you see the wisdom? Do you see the creativity? Do you see the inventions? Okay? They're bringing in what? Science, exactly, David. Yes, mathematics, and they're bringing in. Look at the artwork. Look at the sculptors. Look at the architecture. Look at look at this. Wouldn't you be enamored of this?
Of course.
Yeah, you'd be very, very impressed with this, right? What about writing?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have epic poetry, don't they? What about their ancestry? What about their folklore, their mythology? Do they have some really wild stories?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, they really, really do. All right, so they've got some real page turners, and so it seems like the people are just loving this. Yeah, they're absolutely loving it. What about free thinking and philosophy?
We like that too, sure.
Yes, isn't that interesting? Yes, free thinking. That is just something that's really fascinating to the people in Jerusalem. They're very interested in that, and so they're letting it creep in, aren't they? And slowly, 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 they are becoming Hellenized. They are becoming Greek. They're allowing that to come in. So pretty soon in the cities, what do the people start looking like?
Greeks.
Yeah, they start looking Greek. They start dressing Greek. They have
Hairstyles.
Greek hairstyles. They're emulating this Greek culture because they're really fascinated by it. Well, what about the priesthood? Are they kind of letting things slide and letting some things come in? Yeah, they do it to such a degree that the high priest even allows for the holy writing, the sacred scripture, to be what? Yes, written in Greek instead of Hebrew. All right? So these things are becoming kind of alarming, and especially to the people out in the fields. Are they as enamored of the Greek culture?
No, they're not.
No, because they're not engaging with it. They're not prospering by it, are they? They're farmers. They're out in the fields. All right, so they're not getting wealthy from this culture, and they're not engaging with it at the same level. And so they want to maintain what?
Well, their own.
Their own lifestyle, their own heritage, their own traditions, their own holidays. It's important to them. And so what do you think is starting to happen?
We're gonna have a war.
A storm is brewing. So that's happening just in this little area of Canaan. We're just in that little area of Canaan. But let's look at the bigger picture, because it's important to understand the bigger picture, right? All right, so where are the people we're talking about? Jewish people are right in this area, correct? And remember, the generals have split up the great empire, and so you've got one great empire here, the Seleucid Empire, and then we also have the Ptolemaic Empire in Egypt. Are those two powerful forces?
Yes.
Again, happens over and over and over again to the Israelites. They are just squished right in the middle between two great powers, aren't they?
Right.
So if anything is brewing here, are these two empires going to be concerned about it?
Yeah, I think so.
Because it is the corridor. Do you see that? It's the corridor. That's the way. All right? So they're going to be looking. They're going to be interested in what's going on there. So we have Antiochus is the Seleucid king, and we've got Ptolemy. He is the Egyptian king. All right? And since they are under the Seleucid kingdom, Antiochus is the one that's going to be most concerned about this, correct? So he wants to put somebody in place that's going to be able to settle the people down. All right? And so there is somebody that is going to offer him not only money for this high position, but cooperation. And that is Jason of the priestly line. And so he's offering the king money, and I will cooperate with you. So the king says, all right, I'm going to put you in the position. I'll put you in that position. All right, and when he does, all right, Jason, rather than, serve the people, what he decides to do is he is going to build a gymnasium in the style of the Greeks. All right, does this have anything to do with his people? No, they don't do things like this. So is he serving his own people, or is he serving the Greek people? Yeah, he's serving the Greek people. And so his people, the Jewish people, are saying, it's very clear to us that you're not for us. All right, you're not serving God in our traditional way. And so there's an uprising against him, and he's exiled. He's exiled. So now we need somebody else in that high priest position, and the Seleucid king wants another puppet person. Okay, wants another puppet person. And so he gets Menelaus. He's not even of the priestly line. He's not even of the priestly line. He's not a Levite. Okay? But he's going to pay money to be in that position. And Antiochus wants him there, the king wants him there because he wants this thing to settle down. But it doesn't. Of course it doesn't, right? You all knew that wasn't going to happen. Nope. So as soon as Menelaus is in there, Jason is saying, hey, wait a minute, he's not even a Levite. He's not even of the priestly line. And so he comes back to fight for that position. And what do we have? Civil war. We have civil war, yes. And so now how is Antiochus going to feel about that? Yeah, he's not going to like that at all. No, not at all. Because remember, they are the corridor to his greatest enemy. And he needs to put this down. He needs to stomp it out. And he means to make a firm statement to let everybody know that he's not going to tolerate anything like this. And so in order for him to get his message across loud and clear, he does some unbelievable things. Here's what he does. Are you ready? He forbids the practice of circumcision. Is that a big deal?
Yes.
It's a huge deal. It's the sign, right?
Yeah.
Sabbath was forbidden. Another big deal, correct?
Yeah.
Feasts and holidays were forbidden. And the scriptures were what? Burned, yes. And any violation here, the penalty was, all right, in fact, at the beginning of this,
What a nice man.
at the beginning of this, putting down this rebellion, right at the start, there were about 4,000 Jews that were killed to send that message. To send that message.
Nothing's
Yeah.
ever changed.
No, right?
Oh.
Nothing ever changes. I know, we say that in here all the time. All right, and then it goes even further. It gets worse. Do you think that it could get worse than this? It does. If you're Jewish, you're not going to believe what I'm about to show you. This is appalling beyond belief. All right? The king, who has now sent a governor, there's a governor, Apollonian is his name. And he is going into the temple. Remember, Menelaus is going to let him come in.
Yeah.
And he sacrifices a what?
Baby.
It's a pig. Who said a baby? No, it's a pig.
You said we weren't gonna believe it.
Baby pig.
It's a baby pig.
The baby pig.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no. I would never put a depiction of that up here. Never. You can trust me. Trust me. I would not ever do that.
He used to bring bad things, you know.
Yeah. I would tell you, but I wouldn't illustrate it. No, this is a pig. But if you sacrifice, what does that mean if you're Jewish?
It's the biggest no.
It is, yes. It's an abomination. It's an abomination. That's what it is. And then it got worse. It got worse. What could be worse than that?
Spreading blood all around.
If you remove all of the holy articles of the holy place and the most holy place. You've seen the temple, I'm sure. You know how it's set up? You remove all the articles in there and you replace it with,
The statue. Oh my God.
I know.
Not good at all.
All right? So the governor, under the instruction of the king, places a statue of Zeus in the Holy of Holies. What's in the Holy of Holies, do you remember?
Talents.
The
Holy Spirit.
yes, exactly. The Ark of the Covenant. All right, yes. And that represents the throne of God. So the Ark of the Covenant, being the throne of God, is the presence of God. That's what it's all about. And you remove that and you put this, just, to really, really understand what this means and the significance of this. And so that's what I really want to get across to you as we go on into the story. So now, the king and the governor are feeling like, all right, so we've made a very bold, clear statement here. Now what we need to do is we need to get some of the predominant people, some of the predominant families of the area on board with us in accepting the Greek culture, the Greek culture and worshiping, because if they can get them all to cooperate and everybody's on the same page, are they going to have any troubles? That's what they're thinking. So that's the goal, that's the goal. And so they're going to one of the predominant families in the area around Jerusalem, and this would be the Hasmonean family. The Hasmonean family. Have you ever heard of them?
No.
Oh, well, I think you may have. I think maybe perhaps you have, but under another name. All right, so they are of the priestly line. They are a predominant family. They have respect. People will listen to them. And so an ambassador from the Seleucid king wants to invite the head of the Hasmonean family, the whole family, but the head of the family, to come to a ceremony. And at that ceremony, they are going to worship well, something pagan, right?
Yeah.
So they're gonna put burnt offering. They're gonna use pigs. They're gonna they're going to worship pagan gods, the false gods, and they're gonna use forbidden animals in order to do that. And so the head of the Hasmonean family, Mattathias, comes to this thing because he's been summoned to, and you can't really say no, right? So he comes, and he's there with his family, his sons, and he is asked to bow down and worship at this altar. All right? He and other prominent families, they're all asked to do it. What does Mattathias do when he is being strong-armed into bowing down to worship this false god? He refuses to do it, but not only does he refuse to do it, he actually pulls out his sword. He kills the ambassador right where he stood. Killed him. Ran him through right there. And then pulls out his sword, and he also runs through a fellow Jewish man who did bow down. All right? So now he knows he's given a pretty clear reply to the king, hasn't he? Yes. And so his reply means that he and his family, there's the sons, all right, there's his sons. So he and his family, they have to head for the hills, right? They need to get out of there. So they go up, and because he's made this great stand, a lot of the people that were witness to that really respected it, and they were talking about it. They were admiring it. And so there were other people that were going up into the mountains and joining them. So Mattathias is now saying, we're in a rebellion. We're committed now. We're rebelling against this. And he's building up this little army. And it's like he's using guerrilla warfare, because can he go in the open field and battle with the Seleucid army? No, he can't do that. So they go down, and they're going down at night, and they're knocking over these idols, these altars, these images. They're fighting in surprise attacks. They're up in the mountains in their retreat, and this is going on for quite a while. And as it does, Mattathias, who's already an older man, knows that his time is coming. His time is coming, and so he needs to what? He needs to hand over the leadership to somebody else. Someone else. And so you saw how he has 5 sons, and the middle son, the one in the middle, his name is Judas. And it's Judas that Mattathias, the father, has decided is going to be the one to take over for him. He is going to lead the rebellion. And so you wonder, geez, who usually gets the firstborn? But Mattathias knew what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing because Judas was the right man for the job. All right? Judas is a Hasmonean from the Hasmonean family, but we know him as Judas Maccabee. Judas Maccabee, and it's because, do you know what Maccabee means?
No.
Hammer of God.
The hammer of God. Maccabee in Hebrew is, and I'm not pronouncing it correctly, am I? But close enough. So it means hammer of God. So his name, his family name, all right, he's of the Hasmonean family, but he's called Judas Maccabee. Judas, the hammer of God. And the whole group, the whole rebellious group, those are the Maccabees. You see? All right, so you see there that it's the Maccabean revolt, named after Judas, who, and if he's called the hammer of God, that would insinuate what to you?
It's violence.
He's really,
Leader.
but what's he doing?
Rebelling.
He's winning, isn't he? So in the skirmishes that he goes up against, who's the victor?
Hammer of God.
Judas.
Against all odds. Against all odds. He keeps winning over and over and over again. Now, I'm telling you, this isn't like he's gone out into the open field of battle. All right, they're doing these things, in smaller and smaller sections. All right, but he keeps winning. He keeps winning. But it's not enough. It's not enough. His ultimate goal is to ride into Jerusalem, because what's in Jerusalem? What's in the temple?
You gotta get rid of that God.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. All right, he gets a huge break. He needed it. He needed it. He really needed it. So as many times as he's winning these smaller little battles, he needs to win the big battle, okay? So he gets the big break. And what's the big break that he gets? Well, the king, remember the king?
Yeah.
So the king died,
Oh, we got the.
but his son and heir is way too young to rule, okay?
Yeah.
So is that throne in jeopardy? Is that empire in jeopardy? If you've got a small child is the king, so what has to happen to all the Seleucid soldiers?
I don't say the prince.
They have to go back, don't they?
Yeah.
They have to leave this area and they have to go back to defend that line. Okay, that family, it's in Syria. That's where they are, is Syria today. Okay? So, if all the troops leave, what can Judas Maccabee do?
He's gonna win the war.
He can ride right into Jerusalem, correct?
Yes.
He rides right into Jerusalem. It's 164 BC. He rides into Jerusalem. He goes to the temple. And what is he going to be doing there? He's going to toss out all of the corrupt Jews in addition to anyone else that's there. All right? The first thing he's going to do is he has to install a non-corrupt high priest, and the non-corrupt high priest he installs is his brother Jonathan, who's been fighting along with him side by side. So he knows that this person is of a true heart. And so he makes his younger brother Jonathan is now the high priest. And they go about cleansing the temple. They have to get everything out of there. They have to clean it. They have to you saw all of the instruments in the temple? They have to make everything new again, right?
Yeah.
They can't, because there wasn't anything left, actually. There wasn't anything left. So Judas and Jonathan have cleansed the temple. They have restored all of the articles into the temple. It's all gone back in. And so now we're going to have a rededication. What does Hanukkah mean?
Dedication.
Dedication. The word Hanukkah means, in Hebrew, it means dedication. And so now, the Maccabees, who would be all of those people fighting this rebellion, it's really, that's the miracle that they won against the Seleucid armies, all right? They are going to have a festival of rededication. And now, I know this is a lot of words. See a lot of words up there? I know there's a lot of words up there. But if you can just take a little time, it's important that you read it. I have a good reason. I think Esther knows what my reason is. All right, this is telling us all about what they had to do. Okay? And then there's more. Sorry, guys.
This is the last two.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, it tells you. Yes, so it's just telling you all of the things that they had to do. And then for 8 days, they celebrated the dedication of the altar and joyfully offered burnt offerings and sacrifices. And you can see all of the things that they had to do in order to have this rededication. But what do you not see? What do you not see anywhere there?
Nothing about the oil lamp.
That's right, Edith. There's nothing about the miracle of the oil. It isn't there. There is nothing there in the story of the Maccabean revolt about a miracle of oil.
Why is that?
Oh, I was waiting for someone to have a reaction. It was like, geez, didn't I just do a drop the mic moment and nobody responded to me? Yeah, it isn't there. It's not there. It's not in Maccabees. It doesn't come until much, much later. And you will find it in the Talmud. And what is the Talmud? Do you know?
The sacred book, the sacred book.
No, it's not the sacred book. The Torah, you're talking about the Torah. The Talmud is the rabbi's commentary. All right? So it's much, much, much later on that the rabbis have included that. All right? It's not in the original story. The true celebration of Hanukkah is really not about a miracle of oil lasting a few more days than expected. The real celebration and the real miracle of Hanukkah is that a small group of people stood up to a huge, huge, insurmountable force, knowing that they're probably not going to make it. But they're going to not be bullied. They're going to continue in their way of life or die trying to defend it. And the miracle is that they won, that they rode into Jerusalem, that they recaptured their temple, and that they were able to rededicate it, and that they continued on as a people. Because what did Effie tell us up front?
Otherwise, we'd all be Greek.
Exactly. We'd all be Greek. We'd all be Greek. All right? But this small group of people stood up again. This happens so many times. right?
Right.
And they won. They overcame this, and they were able to retain their way of life. And that is the story. Okay, so that is the story of Hanukkah. Isn't it better than anything that you thought before you came in the room? Okay, so if you would like to come join me next Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, and I will tell you all about it. Let's see if I can come up with any surprises for that. All right, thank you for coming. I'll see you next week.